Hello folks, my name is Mark, this is Why I Hate the World. How you guys doing? So I just spent the last couple of days binge watching the new She-Ra show on Netflix, and this is my first impression review, and overall I liked it. I thought it was a good update to the classic Filmation cartoon. It's a lot different, it's definitely been updated for modern audiences a lot. Now, before we move on here, I am a gigantic fan of Masters of the Universe. In fact, I was the prime age for this stuff when it came out in the 80s, right? I'm the core demographic for Masters of the Universe. And as a child, I had all of the figures, every single one. So as you can kind of see in my shelf back here, this is these are my classic figures down here, Masters of the Universe figures. I've been slowly buying those back because I gave them all away when I was 13 and, didn't need toys anymore, right? But you don't understand, I had every single figure. I had a lot of the rare ones, things like Scareglow, the Sorceress, King Randor, stuff like that. I had the 3 Eternia Towers. That's like a massively huge, expensive collector's item now that's like hard to find. I had the Fright Zone, I had Castle Grayskull and Point Dread, and just all of them. I had pretty much every single figure. And, a lot of really pleasant memories come from me playing with those toys and watching the cartoon. And I watched it every day, Masters of the Universe. It came on at right after school at 4:30, right around the time that I got home walking from school. He-Man came on, and it was like a daily ritual for me, right? And the thing is that She-Ra was a continuation of the Masters of the Universe show. They stopped the He-Man show after 2 seasons, and then there was another season of She-Ra, and it was basically continuing the mythos. It was basically the same show as far as I was concerned. One stopped and the other one began, and it was like the same thing. And He-Man would show up on the She-Ra cartoon, and the bad guys in the cartoon were the Evil Horde. And it's like, well, I had all the Evil Horde toys, right? I didn't buy the She-Ra toys as a kid because they were for girls. They looked like Barbie dolls, and I was like, man, they didn't look enough like the Masters of the Universe toys, and I wasn't into them. They were very much girls' toys, but I still watched the show every single day, right? And it was a lot of fun, and I have a lot of fond memories of that show. And so to see this new one show up, to see it there for a new generation is pretty exciting. Now, a lot of people are complaining about this show. First off, they're talking about the art style. They're saying it looks too much like Steven Universe, and that kind of Cal Art sort of bubbly style. Yeah, it's fine. I mean, there are some things that I like better in the old show, I'll say that. The fully painted backgrounds, for example, I think look better in the old Filmation show, but overall the animation in this show is leaps and bounds above the old show. Now, I don't know if you've watched the old show lately, but there's a lot of cost-cutting measures in it, right? Basically, they reuse the same sequences over and over and over, and they did that because it saved them money. So you'll see the same walk cycles, the same running cycles, the same animation of somebody running or jumping or standing to the side, right? And they reuse that over and over and over, and it becomes part of the charm of the old show. It's stylized almost, right? But you can't really sit here and say that it has better animation than the new one, because it doesn't. And there are some aspects of the animation in the new show that I kind of didn't like. It's very the designs are very simplistic, I guess, right? It seems like they kind of took all the designs and they brought them down a notch, right? And in that kind of respect, yeah, I do prefer the old show as far as the character designs go. The overall look and feel, I think, in the new show is really flat. It kind of reminds me the art direction, I guess you would call it, in the new show it's sort of like a mix between Steven Universe and Voltron. So it's got a little bit of anime kind of inspiration and a little bit of Steven Universe in there. And, it's not bad. but I would have liked it if everything had more of a rendered look. And the old show had a much more fluid kind of, like everything looked a little more realistic, I guess. And that's just a personal preference, but I mean, as far as the actual like animation itself, the quality of the animation, I think in the new show is the quality of the animation is far superior, right? So I guess that's one thing. I like the art design in the old show better, you know, but the animation is better in the new show. Now, speaking of character designs, another criticism you get from people is that they changed it up too much, you know. They made Glimmer too fat. They changed Bo's race. In fact, a couple of characters, their races get changed. Things like that, and it's like, yeah, well, you know, it doesn't detract from their characters too much. Hordak in this one is like scary. Like you see him, he looks like this crazy vampire. He's got like red teeth and stuff. I'm happy to say that they didn't change his design too much. He actually looks pretty close to, actually he looks more like the old toy than the old design of Hordak from the old show. He looks more like the toy, and I was actually kind of like surprised and happy to see that. But overall, I think, you know, the changes in the designs of the characters are not too far off from, you know, from what they were in the last one. I think the biggest change, I think, is probably Scorpia. Like, they made her this sort of buff, like, you know, huge buff, like, buzz cut kind of thing. Right? She actually looks more like a Masters of the Universe toy, right? In this iteration than she did in the old show. The biggest changes they made, however, is that they seem to have aged everybody down a couple of years. So, in the old show, Adam and Adora are 18 years old, according to the Masters of the Universe show Bible, right? That they wrote. So, if you don't know what that is, each TV show has a Bible, is what they call it. And it's basically like a master story document. So if you want to know somebody's background, they would create a bio and they put it in that doc. So a writer can look that up and see, okay, his name is Adam, he's blah, 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 he's 18, he likes bananas, whatever, right? That's what it is. That's a show Bible. So in the show Bible, they're supposed to be 18. And in this show, it looks like they're between 15 to 17, you know, right around there. It looks, some of them look a little younger than the others, but they're definitely not 18. They're very much teenagers, right? And there's a kind of a difference when Adora turns into She-Ra. She actually grows in height and is a lot taller and looks a lot older than in her normal iteration. And that's another thing, like in the old show. In the old show, she looked exactly the fucking same, you know, just with a different outfit on. It's like, how did people not figure out that it's her? There is a little bit of that, like, Clark Kent Superman thing with the glasses going on. You know, He-Man and Adam look exactly the same, and Adora and She-Ra looked exactly the same. And in this one, it's like, that's another thing they changed, is that they don't try to hide it in this one either. That, like, in the old show, She-Ra is like, you know, her identity is secret. And in this show, it's like they didn't even bother with that. They just fucking, hey, look who I am. Right. So, you know, and I thought that was actually kind of a neat twist. Instead of trying to go for that trope, they just said, fuck it. And, like, had it all out in the open. So everybody knows that Adora is She-Ra. And I thought that was kind of cool, actually. Another complaint that you're hearing from people is that the show is basically catering to SJWs. Specifically, there's a lot of homosexual undertones in She-Ra, in this show in particular, you know, and I've seen people basically saying that, you know, online, that it's like Steven Universe, right? Which is true. There is a lot. There's an implied lesbian attraction between Catra and Adora. And in fact, a couple of the other characters are in like an open same-sex relationship. It was Natasha and the whatever the other, I can't remember. There's one more princess, I can't remember. they're not, these people who are complaining about this, they're not remembering the old shows very well, because He-Man is the gayest thing ever made. All right? He is. And the old show is incredibly gay. Okay? And I say this as a massively huge fan. I'm not insulting it. Okay? I'm not insulting the show. I'm not saying it's bad. This is the truth. This is, this is the truth. It is, there is a lot of homosexual undertones to He-Man and She-Ra, the old shows and the old toys and everything, right? I mean, if you take a look at this right here, right? Let's just take a look at this toy, okay? This is He-Man, right? He's a big, butt-naked barbarian dude with massive muscles who has furry underwear and wears a fucking S&M sex harness. Okay, that's the main character in the toy line, this huge naked fucking barbarian dude, right, wearing a fucking, S&M thing. I mean, give me a fucking break, all right? Prince Adam in the show wears like a pink and purple leotard, right, and a page boy haircut. Okay, there's a character named Fisto, for crying out loud, that has a giant fist. I mean, give me a fucking break. And even the old, She-Ra show had a lot of, weird lesbian undertones going on as well, too. They're basically, the entire Great Rebellion is all women. There's, one guy in the entire thing, right? And then there's even, Glimmer has a thing for Prince Adam. And he always runs away from her, like he's embarrassed and shit like that. And it's like, yeah, in real life, he's not embarrassed. He's just not into girls. Okay. And here's the thing, okay? A lot of people don't know this. But a lot of the people that worked at Filmation were actually gay, right? They were. And they, they worked it into the show on purpose. And it was, always very, they were very open about it back then. Right, so I hate to break to you people who are complaining about this shit, but, the SJWs were always involved with He-Man and She-Ra, right? It was always a very open show that was all about that kind of thing. Sorry to be ruining your childhoods, guys, but, and keep in mind, remember, I'm a seriously major big fan of all this, And it didn't turn me gay, right? I'm I mean, fuck, man, they're toys, for crying out loud, There's this, there's this myth that conservatives and, anti-gay people have, that children will be turned gay against their will if they happen to see something gay on TV, or, are aware that gay people are a thing that exists or something like that. And it's no, it doesn't work that way, all right? You're born gay. You don't suddenly turn gay because you saw some shit on TV, or you listen to a musician that was gay, or you buy a toy of a buff barbarian dude who's fucking butt naked wearing a sex harness and furry underwear. That's not how it works. Okay. I mean, if anything, this show is not, this show, all it's going to do is that people are going to watch the show and they'll be entertained, right? And children who watch it will understand that there's people out there that, are attracted to the same sex. That's it. And know what'll happen? They'll see them as normal people, right? And not as stereotypes. That's what's going to happen. And that's why the anti-gay people hate it. Because it destroys their that's why it takes their ability to make fun of it away. That's why they don't like it. So anybody complaining about that shit, just tell them to go fuck off, because it's bullshit. So one more thing I want to say, the writing in this is, I think, what really separates this from the old show. It is leaps and bounds better than what is in the old TV show. All right, it just is. I know a lot of people aren't gonna agree with that either, but this is my personal opinion. In my personal opinion, it is. So you have to remember, the old show was essentially a 30-minute long commercial that was there to just sell us toys. So they would have episodes, and then they would just throw characters in there that didn't do anything. They were just there so that the kids at home would go, oh, that's a new toy, right? Now, some people are going to tell me I'm crazy, but it's true. It's absolutely true. So there's like the characters don't have elaborate backstories or anything like that. They're all based on puns, right? There's a skunk character that smells. His name is Stinkor. All right. There's a character who his arms and legs they can grow longer. His name is Extendar. All right. They reused that for a She-Ra character. There's a She-Ra character who does the exact same thing. That's the thing. They're all gimmicks, right? And She-Ra characters aren't even any better. There's another one that's like a She-Ra character where you spin a thing and her face changes from a happy face to a sad face. And she's supposed to be a double agent. Her name is Double Trouble. I mean, this is the depth that went into creating the characters for these. There was no thoughts to it. There was no depth. They weren't creating characters because they had compelling stories to tell. Okay, they were creating them because they were putting them in the show because they had toys to sell. That's the reason why. That's why these shows existed. So they didn't care about development. Now, that doesn't mean that there isn't any at all. There are a couple of episodes of Masters of the Universe and She-Ra that get a little deep. There's a few of them. Like there's one, for example, where that it comes to mind, where He-Man thinks he killed somebody, and then stops being He-Man and all this other stuff, and it's a big deception. And there's a couple of episodes of the She-Ra show that have a little bit of depth as well. But overall, not really. Overall, I mean, if you watch it, it's very, very formulaic, right? It's very slapsticky. The villains are bumbling, especially the evil horde. Like nobody beyond Shadow Weaver gets any kind of depth at all in the old show. I think there's like one or two episodes where Shadow Weaver they let on that there's more to her than meets the eye, right? People read too much into this stuff because the last time they saw the show they were like 8 years old, and they have this imaginary vision of it from when they were kids, and they think it's the best thing ever. It's like, dude, it wasn't. All right, it was basically we were watched every single day. We came home and we watched a commercial that got us to go out and buy toys, right? The shit worked on me, I admit that's exactly what it was, and you know what? I loved every second of it. I'm not gonna lie, I loved every second of it. It was great, okay? But I'm not gonna try to pretend that there was some kind of there was depth and nuance and great writing to the show when there wasn't. Well, in this show, the new She-Ra show, there is, okay? There's lots of a lot of development. She-Ra, Adora gets a lot of development in this show. She goes from being this cocky rebel person to am I doing the right thing? And there's an entire episode where she thinks she should quit because she's just making it worse and all this other stuff, right? Catra in this show gets way, way better treatment than she did in the old show. In the old show, Catra, she was a background character who had a gimmick where she would put a mask on and she would turn into a cat, and she had this really, really annoying voice where she would always be like meow and stuff like that, and it was as annoying. Try watching the old show. The character of Catra, you want her to die because her voice is so annoying. And this one, she actually has motivations and feelings and fuck, it's like an actual fleshed out character that somebody spent a couple of minutes thinking up, right? Instead of just a toy that they shoehorned in there because they wanted kids to buy it, I mean, fuck, man. Glimmer in this one gets a lot of development as well. Even Bo, Bo in the old show is like a sidekick who's just there to shoot arrows at stuff. And in this one, he's got a sort of joking thing and even has a little bit of conflict with, Glimmer and one of the other princesses and stuff like that. And it's way, I don't know, it's just way better. And anybody who's going to sit here and tell you that the writing sucks and the writing in the old show was good, is on crack. Is on crack, and has obviously not watched the old show with an objective eye, and is just remembering it from when they were a child, and remembering it in a way that does not conform to fucking reality. So anyway, I'm very happy with it. I'm kind of stoked to see what's going to come in season 2. I would really love it if anybody out there happens to watch this that works for Netflix or whatever. I would really, really, really love it to see He-Man or Adam or anybody from Eternia, Skeletor. I would love to see them cameo in this. They don't have to have a starring role because the show's not about them. The show's about She-Ra, right? But it would just like blow me away, right? And I would love it to actually just to get a cameo of some of those characters, just so we can see where they are and that they exist and stuff like that in season 2. That would be the coolest thing like ever, right? I'd love to see that. I'd love to see the sorceress, right? They do mention Grayskull, so that gives me a little bit of hope. Maybe that because she still has to say, "For the honor of Grayskull," when she transforms, right? So that maybe that means that they'll explore that backstory a little more, like who was Grayskull and all that, King Grayskull, and that would be really, really cool. I'm really hoping that happens in season 2. So anyway, if you haven't watched the show yet, go watch it. It's way better than all of these people, all of these haters out here are giving it credit for. That's all I got. Adios, folks.